Want some candy?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants.
I hear you looking for candy, man, bitch.
Give me some sugar, baby. Like scary movies.
Want some candy?
You are listening to Monster Candy Podcast. We have got a sweet tooth for horror movies, and we are dying to talk about it. Here with me, we got Dominic Davi.
Hey, how's it going?
And Screamin' Ian.
Hey, guys!
And of course, myself, Shotzi Blackheart. Today's episode is all about the 80s, baby. Horror really boomed in the 80s, going from cult to mainstream. So what do you think made horror so big in the 80s?
Well, I mean, I don't know. At least for me, that's where I guess that's where I guess that's where most people listening to this show, at least I think us, came into horror, came into all this. That's when we started. Like, chances are, well, maybe not you, Shotzi. Maybe you're a bit younger, because I was going to say, like, that's where I saw the first 80s.
Yeah.
Horror. 80s was when
Right.
I first saw horror for the first time. You know.
Well, even me, I think Child's Play was probably one of the first horror movies that I got into as a kid. I mean, it wasn't new, or it didn't just come out when I was a kid. That was 80s, right?
Yes, that is totally an 80s movie. It counts. 88. Yes, it does count. But yeah, that's, I think, where most of us came in. I mean, 80s really, I think, is where horror really dialed in. And it became like a big thing. You had every mall filled with teenagers going to see horror movies. And so that it just kind of boomed then.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that even says a lot right there that I wasn't even born in the 80s. I'm a 90s girl, but still my first horror movies were from the 80s. Because there really wasn't anything in the 90s. Not much.
Well, there was, but it definitely, I think popularity moved away from the focus, whereas, like, you know, we were in the 80s, you're coming out of what I see, I don't know if you guys agree or not, but what I see as, like, literally the best of the best horror kind of, like, kickstarted really in the 70s, really ramped up the effects, everything just kind of dialed in. Even though it was low budget, you had all these creative guys these creative people making these amazing movies, and then that carried us into the 80s, where it was like, oh, people like this, and so we get a huge amount of great movies and a huge amount of terrible movies.
Oh yes, definitely a lot of terrible.
Yeah, and so it's like you get this explosion that happens in the 80s that has, I don't know, I mean, it pretty much carries through to this day, like the output of that time still. I mean, so it doesn't surprise me that a 90s girl your first movie would be an 80s movie, even if it was on the tail end. I mean, what was your first horror movie at that point?
Well, like your old buddy Screamin' E would say, shit. I mean,
I was gonna say Big Trouble in Little China, because I love that movie.
It's a good one.
It's a good one.
And it counts as a creature movie, so we could totally talk about
well, my first 80s horror movie I saw. Oh shit, probably. I mean, the one that really sticks out in my mind was Poltergeist.
Yeah, that was another one for me too.
Yeah.
Child's Play and Poltergeist.
But I mean,
Poltergeist was
always
one of my
rerunning, so I watched it a lot as a kid.
It scared the crap out of me
right?
as a kid. Poltergeist. Yeah. I mean, it's funny to think about that now. Like, you saying that is really interesting, because to think about that now, but back then, watching it for the first time as a kid, I thought that movie was fucking terrifying.
Oh, yeah, I definitely did.
Yeah, that was some shit back in the day.
Yeah, like, it's looking back as experienced, like, movie watchers, it's not nearly so impactful.
No. It's definitely not top 5 for me.
Yeah. I think it's in mine.
It's in my top 5.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, don't tell now.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't go too deep into the movies.
Yeah, we'll save that for later.
But no, I think the 80s were just fun. Like, It got through. The biggest thing I liked about the 80s movies is there was like this current mix with a real retro vibe, so you're still kind of paying homage. I mean, it's just like the music at the time, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it was a lot of bluesy rock and roll pop that definitely had a lot of like 50s, 60s vibe to it, but just with like synthesizers and shit, you know? So it was modern, but they were still holding on to like the old format, which I like because it's, you had a lot of ghosts, you had a lot of, you know, the slasher thing was really huge too.
Right.
And then that's when the gore started coming in, which was cool. You know, I like that. It definitely has its place as well. But I mean, in the 80s, it was just like, whatever you can do, you're gonna do. You know, just go for it.
Do you guys feel like there was like, I mean, even with music and stuff, but like the movies, like, didn't they see, like you said, it just, there was a lot more joyfulness to it, like a lot more playfulness. It just was a lot more fun than like.
Well, the 80s
later.
was just more fun.
The 80s were just. The 80s were fucking awesome. For any of you guys who missed the 80s, you fucked up.
I know.
Like,
God damn you, Mom.
that was like the shit. All those old movies that you see where they're just like partying and just like having fun, like dancing. Literally, that was what the 80s was like. Like you just.
Yeah, Mom, why
couldn't
couldn't you just pop me out a couple years earlier?
I think the movies reflected that. You know, it was just a bunch of like you said, it was joyful, it was fun. Hey, and then we're gonna throw some scary shit, but it was always groups of kids like hanging out.
And I think the economy was better back then, so they had more money to put into movies.
No, that's true. Well, I mean, I think per dollar what you could get out of it.
Right.
Yeah. You definitely were seeing something there. And I think, you know, it's funny because I got really excited about high school in the 80s. Like the thought of going to school and being like, because it looked like every movie, every show, they were having so much fun. Even when it was a scary movie, like it was just, they were so cool. And like then I got there and it was nothing like Ferris Bueller. By the time I got there, it was like completely in the 90s. Not at all.
No.
It wasn't funny. Nobody was having fun. There were no singing numbers. Nobody was killing anybody. It was just, I don't know.
I mean, my brother and sister, my brother's 9 years older than me.
Oh, wow.
And my sister's 7. So, like, they experienced that.
Yeah, that was
like the
their
fun,
time.
awesome high school shit,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So, and it was like that. I remember, like, man, they're always just, like, having fun and shit. I mean, of course, there's probably your typical day-to-day, you know, nonsense you have to deal with, but it was fun, man.
It feels like also, like, maybe because, I mean, this is just me spitballing, but maybe because where you had that was really good, where you had the 50s was catering to teenagers, was kind of the first time teenagers became this economic force, but then the 80s, it seemed like it hit again, like another big wave of it hit, where you had arcades and you had the mall was a big important, and then you had all these movies gearing towards kids, like you know, like come bring them in, like it's all seemed to be really geared towards teenagers, which maybe why it was so much more fun.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that didn't happen in the 90s and didn't happen in the 2000s or the 70s, but it definitely seemed like there was this like really big time frame with music, anything creative, where it was just like, look, go for it, just go for it. Like, we got computers now, we got all sorts of crazy stuff, like let's have fun with it. Let's more blood, more gore. We can push the envelope. And I feel like that might have been what was going on, which was why it came so fun.
Everything was over the top and colorful.
It kind of was over the top.
Just like the clothing. Gotcha clothing, man. Which I said we all should have dressed up in that shit for this episode, just because. But I got vetoed.
What? I mean, as far as they know, we are, right?
I don't like to lie to you people.
So yeah, I think that's why that like the 80s was just, you know, riding that wave from the 70s where they really kind of exploded, the monster movies and the gore and the effects kind of really exploded. You had some really great talents on hand who were really pushing it, and everybody was just going for it. I mean, no, I don't think they were dealing with like huge budgets by any means, but like they definitely were having fun.
Things were accessible back then, I feel like, so
yeah,
it made it easier.
And yeah, so at this point, I think we should start like what would we recommend as some of the best the 80s had to offer, right? Like what do we think? What do you?
So you guys want to do a top 5?
I'm fine with that. I mean,
Top
it's gonna be
5
tough.
now?
It's gonna be tough.
It is,
But I
tough.
mean, this is going to be a long conversation because we're talking
Right.
about all of us here. So,
Yeah.
so each of us are going to have different viewpoints. I would have a tough time. I think we talked about this before, getting down to 5.
It was tough.
Yeah. So
Well, let's
My list isn't even like I don't even know if that's really my list. Like I wrote them down and I'm like I don't know because there's so many horror movies in the 80s.
there's a shit ton.
well, what's one that stands out to you from your list that you think is great? I'll even say before you go there, I will say looking at a bunch of top. If you go through, if people listening go through top lists of the 80s horror movies, one that's tops out all the time, which I don't agree with, is The Shining. And
I don't agree with that either.
I don't agree with it.
You love The Shining.
I don't love it. I mean, I like it. It's a good movie. Yeah, I own
See-
it, but
I wouldn't say that it was number one on
I definitely wouldn't say number
list.
one.
It's number one
It's-
on a lot of
It's
lists.
it's a great film and it's beautifully shot and just everything is great. The script is great.
Super cool.
I think it's just a little too long and then
a
it
little
drags a lot.
I'm also in the church of Stephen King. Like I'm a big Stephen King fan,
Yeah.
so I read the
Oh,
book, and
totally.
it kind of
Stephen
seems
King
like,
rules.
but it does kind of seem like that Stanley Kubrick, as great of a filmmaker as he is, just kind of went fuck you, and then like fuck this story, and then just took what it's almost like Stephen King got drunk. And was kind of trying to tell Stanley Kubrick of what the story was. Like, oh man, listen, so then I have him in this hotel. And then Stanley Kubrick went, yeah, fuck yeah, I'll make a movie out of that. And then didn't read it, but just from the drunken
ditch it.
conversation with Stephen King, like wrote down the story as he knew it. Like,
Yeah, it was cool, but yeah, it's a little too long. Shelley Duvall is a little annoying. Like really annoying.
olive oil?
Yeah.
Olive oil is annoying? I do kind of have a soft spot for olive oil.
I mean,
liked her.
it
She
was
my
alright.
favorite part.
I mean, the
What's your
best
favorite
the best part about that whole movie is Scatman Carruthers. Sorry.
Scatman Carruthers was really great. I mean, I definitely think that if you're listening to this and you actually haven't seen The Shining, you need to see it. It surprises me that it is the number, but so many film critics go, yes, this is the best horror movie of the 80s. I'm like, really?
Top 10 for sure. I'd
Yeah,
say
I
top
think
10.
Sure.
Worth
Yeah,
in
yeah,
top
yeah.
10. I mean,
Okay,
Stanley
yeah.
Kubrick, but I
Yeah.
think they almost call it number one because it's Stanley Kubrick and he's amazing.
So do I.
And he is, but I don't know if it's. And as a Stephen King fan, it's an homage to the actual book, which I think is superior.
There's better Stephen King movies.
Stephen King had a real hard time there for a while. People were doing shit jobs at converting his stuff, and
There's
the
my
80s
god, there's
is,
some terrible ones.
yeah, the 80s is right in that role of like, yeah, let's take this amazing story that's super scary and fuck with it, like before we show it to everyone as a movie.
Let's talk about how much gore there was in the 80s. though.
Oh yeah.
That's like where
Well,
that's,
I think that practical effects really took its peak in the 80s and then
definitely
in
one
the
of-
90s that's when we started getting more CGI.
yeah,
So
started
that's why I
creeping in.
think the gore was so great
But yeah,
in the
that's
80s.
one of my favorite things about
because
the
it was
80s.
still practical
It
effects.
was the practical
Yeah.
effects.
Right.
Even if they looked kind of shitty.
I love
It-
that though. I
Wow.
love
I
the
mean, yeah, I'm just saying it's still it's still a good thing to me, I think, to see a guy in a
The bright
costume
red
or
blood.
just everything
Well,
about the practical effects is cool.
perfect example of effects that looked cheesy but were amazing and crazy. Hellraiser, one of my favorite 80s
yeah.
horror movies. When the guy, like, just I love the movie, and I'm a Clive Barker fan as well. Spoiler alert: I read books. But when Frank comes back to life and he's oozing through
Yes.
the table,
Yes.
and the skeleton starts reforming, all the pieces, like that sequence is so gross. And so I mean, because who knows how realistic it looks? Like, you know, who has ever seen a body reform itself out of pus? But still, that sequence.
But those
that
are
they
always
did,
my favorite.
Yeah, that was an 80s staple.
was
Everybody
so-
was melting.
Yeah.
Oh yes, melting.
Everyone
It was like
melting.
oozing, like that was the
Tarman.
thing. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
the thing.
exactly. No, perfect. Yeah, it just
Fright
seemed
Night,
like
everything.
that everybody was trying so hard to more sticky goo.
Yes.
Like, let's get this more so.
the
And I mean,
stuff.
the
The
stuff.
blob.
Yeah. No, there's so many instances, and I just think that like when you were talking about like the practical effects really peaked then because of what they were doing, and maybe it doesn't always look right, and it's like, yeah, you watch Hellraiser, it doesn't look right, but it doesn't look wrong either. It's just gross and amazing, and the whole sequence is just sick. It's awesome. Like, I don't know. I guess you gotta be kind of person that likes it, but
Yeah.
So Hellraiser is another big favorite of mine. I mean, I thought.
I love
I mean, come on,
Hellraiser.
Pinhead. I mean, I don't know.
It's good
I think-
stuff.
I
It's
think that's a
also
standout.
my nephew's favorite. One of my nephew's favorite monsters. He's like 6 years old and just in love with Pinhead. It's hilarious.
Really, that's
Yeah.
awesome. It broke my heart because Clive Barker was trying to get Hellraiser. I think it was Hellraiser 10. And he wanted to do it, and he had an old idea, and he saw Evil Dead. He saw the Evil Dead remake, and he was like, "Oh, come on, like Hellraiser, let's do it again. Like, let's do it again and do it right, and really freak everyone out." And he even said, like, the only thing I want back is Doug Bradley. Like, I want Pinhead back, but other than that, it's all bets are off. We're gonna redo this whole thing. And I was like super excited, and they didn't give him the money, and they didn't go for it, and they made a piece of crap Hellraiser again without, I think, anybody, and they just it was just to keep the license. But for those of you who are out there who love Hellraiser, this is worth mentioning. There is now a comic series that Clive Barker is doing, and in fact, the omnibus of the first batch of them came out. It's great. It's totally the sequel as it's carrying it forward as Clive Barker would have intended, and it's a surprising story. It takes some really interesting twists, and it's definitely worth it. I really recommend it. If you like Hellraiser, check out the comic. Yeah, so
Another great one, American Werewolf in London.
definitely.
Transformation,
The transformation scene. That's classic.
That is great, and that movie that has a really big place in my heart because it's a werewolf movie, and werewolf movies are constantly shit on.
Yeah.
It is the most underrepresented monster in quality movies. ever.
Totally. There's too many zombies, too many vampires, and not enough werewolves.
Yeah, and we could do a whole show devoted to werewolf.
I think
movies.
like all of, except for Wolfman, all the werewolf movies were in the 80s. I mean,
there's
the big ones.
Most of them.
Yeah.
the good ones. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some pretty terrible ones that got out, but that came later. But yeah, I would agree that the 80s was kind of the time,
It was
the
the
last
apex
good time of
time
the
of
werewolf.
Yes.
Werewolves.
Yeah, I mean,
Silver Bullet.
and I've watched some guys. I mean, if you're listening, you're like, no, what about so and so? It's like, dude, I've seen it. It's not that good.
No.
You know, the one that came out in '97 or something. We should dedicate an episode to that. But American Werewolf in London is on my list of top 80 scores. By
Stop
far.
blowing everyone's lists, man.
Well, you don't know which number it is exactly.
Yeah. I don't have it. I just know which ones. What you throw out one? What's one for you?
Oh, I'm not giving up my list until we go
Oh,
into the
damn,
list.
okay.
I think we're doing the
Oh,
list.
you wanna
That's
do
what
the
we're
list?
doing.
Oh,
I think that's
shit.
what we're doing.
Okay, let's go backwards. Let's all go around and give our five, our number
We're
5.
just gonna throw out the 5.
No,
Yeah.
not all of them. Just like what is number 5 for us?
Oh, number 5.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
All right. I'm gonna.
Start with you, Shotzi.
Okay.
You
well,
tell us.
I mean, my list is kind of not really ready, the order so much, but I think my number 5 is Evil Dead 2.
It's on my list.
Yeah.
Evil Dead 2.
Okay.
I'm
is
back.
on
Is
my
that
list.
that your 5? Is that
It's-
number 5?
It could easily be. It's like 5 or 4.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
Full-
fi-
it's
it's
4 on
5.
mine. Yeah.
5 or 4. Evil Dead. Come on.
Evil Dead.
Dude. I love the first one. I love the sequel.
Yes.
I like the sequel because they kind of embraced it and dialed it in more.
Yeah, the characters are more developed.
It wasn't a sequel, man.
It wasn't a sequel; it was a remake.
No, it's a remake. That's
Yeah.
true. Yes.
Yeah, my favorite part about number 2 is the redemption of Ash, because he was such a fucking sissy
He was.
in the first one, and it drove me nuts.
His
I'm like,
bangs.
just everything about it. He was so like,
Well, he was supposed
You know
to
what
be
annoys
horrified.
me? You know what annoys me about Evil Dead 2 going into Army of Darkness that always pisses me off is Ash's streak doesn't go in to Army of Darkness because Evil Dead
No.
2 ends with that white streak in his
Yeah.
hair.
Yeah.
And then Army of Darkness, where'd it go?
Well, going through the time tunnel, just
It dyed his hair back.
it worked his hair.
well, no,
back.
because at the end of Evil Dead 2, where he's back in Army of Darkness time, he still has it, but when they film
Exactly.
Army of
See?
Darkness,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It
That's
wasn't
right. That's
there.
right. That's
I
right.
think you're just.
When he lands there.
I hate
Yeah.
to tell you this, but I think you guys are getting caught up in the time warp that happened because it was a little weird. And, at first it might have looked like that, but when the actual time stream went forward,
caught up to
got
him,
his shit
yeah.
together,
Okay.
got his hair done,
no,
got
it
his
was
hair did. He was good.
it was good. It was definitely way, in my opinion, way better than the first one.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the first one.
I do
but
enjoy
it's a
the first
little
one.
long, and then it's it drags a little bit for me, and it's a little annoying. Ash is a
Yeah,
little
Evil
nervous.
Dead 2, you kind of
Evil Dead 2
get to business a little quicker.
he's like fucking John Wayne. He just comes out and just starts going to town and
He's
handling
definitely way
shit.
more Ash.
Yes. Way more badass in Evil Dead 2.
Like, yeah.
So
He has
that's
his shit together.
That's definitely in all our top 5.
I mean, I think Evil Dead. Everyone should anyone who's listening to the show should definitely have seen that movie or those movies. But yeah, Evil Dead 2 is definitely a standout of the 80s that I would say you got to see that one.
Yes, I agree.
Number 4 for me is probably The Fly.
Really?
Yeah.
The Fly.
Yes.
Got some Jeff Goldblum action.
Do. I mean, yeah, I really
From
love...
Duquesne, Pennsylvania. Little fun fact: his dad was my dad's family doctor.
No kidding.
Yep.
What?
Yeah,
Oh,
So-
lived up in Calvin
interesting.
Village. Yeah, no.
Wow.
Yep.
All right. All right. That's interesting. little personal
Mm-hmm.
connection there.
Yeah, I also, you probably never seen this show, but do you remember a TV show called Please Don't Eat the Daisies?
Yes.
You know that dog, the sheepdog?
Yeah.
It's related to the sheepdog I had. It was like its mother or its grandmother or something like that.
What?
Yep.
That's crazy.
I mean, I don't know that show, but I mean,
I like
it's still pretty cool.
the manufactured what? You know, you're like, whatever. Who cares? Talking about your dog.
So-
Well, I mean, half your family was in Night of the Living Dead, though, right?
Probably.
Yeah. So
Everybody from Pittsburgh has somebody in the family or knows somebody that was in that movie.
why
Oh,
The
one-
Fly though? Why is that one of your best? That's not on my list. I though I do like the movie.
not
Well,
on mine.
it's not in my top 5 as for like movies in general.
No, but
go.
in the 80s, we're focused on that.
Yes, we're focusing on 80s. But I'm a really big fan of the Vincent Price Fly,
Oh yeah.
and I really love the special effects in this one. It's
Yeah.
it's very like The Thing. It's very similar to those
Yeah.
special effects, which is
And
up there
again-
for me too as well.
Had some melting shit going
Melting,
on.
yes, melting.
Yeah.
The melting monkey.
Yeah, it was.
His
The
his melting face.
The regurgitation.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. Right.
So no, I liked it. I used to watch that a lot
Mm-hmm.
too growing up. So I think that's a good one to have
That
on
is
the
a good
list.
one to have on the list. We already talked about Hellraiser, so I had to throw that in there. Hellraiser's definitely
Is that
it's
4?
on my list, but
Probably,
we've
yeah.
talked about I think Hellraiser. It bums me out that he didn't get a chance to remake that because I think that's one that's ripe for remaking because I think it could
have
if you
been
took
better.
the gloves off and you really went for what
Mm-hmm.
he's trying to say in this story and what he's trying to do. I was like, it's pretty awesome.
Yes.
Like so. Yeah,
You know,
I think it would be an amazing remake.
It's not. That would probably wouldn't even be in my top 10 to be
What?
honest.
Hellraiser?
Hellraiser. Yeah, it was.
We have such sights to show you.
It's cool, but it was
is.
just not one I dug so much.
Really?
Yeah.
The special effects is really what
The
wins me
special effects
over.
are
I
cool.
think like
super cool, and the characters are all right, you know. But he said it. I think he could have done it better.
I'm laughing to myself because I'm sitting here going, maybe it's the bondage aspect that I'm digging. I don't know.
I think that's what you don't like about it.
So yeah, no, all right, fair enough. For me, it rates high. But what about you? What's one you got then?
My fifth one is number 5, Night of the Creeps.
Ooh,
Oh.
that's a good one.
For many reasons. First reason, it is to me the perfect homage to a 50s 60s B movie,
Yeah.
but in the 80s. Like everything, it was just stupid kids. Oh wow, we're gonna go do this stupid thing. Oh no, you know, and just they get caught up in some shenanigans. Zombies, because being from Pittsburgh, that's like my shit.
Yeah.
So I can't. All right, it has brain-eating slugs.
Yeah, it's pretty across the board fun movie.
Dude,
It's not on my list, but it's
I
a
mean-
fun
No,
movie.
no.
It's a
screaming like banshees. Come on. Screaming like banshees?
I haven't thought about that in a
Right?
while.
There's
yeah.
boobs in it, which
Oh,
we
that's,
didn't talk
that's another
80s.
that's another
was
thing
like
about the
tits
80s.
everywhere.
Yes, boobies everywhere, and it was still a PG film. There could be like 10
Oh, yeah.
pairs of titties in an 80s film, and they'll still rate it a PG film.
Yeah.
Like what's that one movie we were watching? The Duck. What's the,
Howard the Duck.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
PG.
Yeah, that's a PG film, and there's like
PG-13, yeah.
A
duck
gateway to
titties and
bestiality.
like exactly
Again.
another gateway. Yes.
It even had a duck condom in it.
It did have that comment
Yeah.
in it.
And then, last but not least, Tom Atkins
Ah.
is in that movie, I like him in just about every movie.
I can't think of anything he was terrible in.
Yeah.
Off the top of my
I mean, he
head.
basically plays the same dude in every movie, but it's still he fucking nails it. And again, Tom Atkins being from Pittsburgh,
Oh,
so
right.
I'm like,
There it
yeah.
is.
And let me just tell you, I met him at Monstapalooza.
Uh-huh.
He's such a nice fucking guy.
He's
You
a
know,
nice guy.
I was wearing a Steelers hat. He's like, "Oh, the Steelers! Oh yeah!" We started shooting shit. I'm from Pittsburgh, you know. He's like, "Oh man, you know."
That's awesome.
Plus for taglines, I think that movie probably fucking nails it.
That's a lot.
You know,
No, it's
Really.
definitely quotable.
yeah.
I like that movie. I do. I am very fond of it.
It is. I like just everything about it's got aliens, zombies, young love, zombie
Young
dogs.
love.
Yeah, it has it all.
Night of the Creeps.
Oh, and it has fucking Bubba from Mama's Family.
It does have Bubba.
Yeah,
from Mom's Family.
fucking
Though I
A.
wonder. I mean, only the older end of this audience.
Yeah,
of
I don't know
people
what that
are gonna-
means.
Check it out.
No, no, yeah. See, it's like I said, like
What
it's
is a
gonna be lost.
bubba?
What's a Bubba?
His
a
character. But Brad in Night of the Creeps was Bubba on Mama's Family.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was a show.
Yeah.
On TV.
Okay. Before my time.
Yeah, very much before you.
So that's my number 5.
Okay. All right.
So let's go back to Miss Blackheart. What's your number 4?
I already did 4.
Did you?
The Fly.
Oh yeah.
We'll go back to you. What's 4? For you?
4 for me.
Didn't you say Evil Dead 2?
Yeah, Evil Dead 2 was.
All right,
my
so
number
we're
four.
right.
there. So that's 4. So now we're on 3.
3. 3 for me is Dream Warriors.
Oh, yeah, nice. That's a good one. I've met some of them. My brother has a Nintendo cartridge of the video game that is essentially Dream Warriors, and
Oh,
he's
okay.
got almost all the Dream Warriors signing it. He's almost got everybody.
What? That's awesome.
Yeah, he's
That was one of my. I was like, oh,
Maybe.
could be my top
Yeah.
5 because
It's
it's
good.
it's probably my favorite.
It's
of
the best Nightmare, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Definitely.
actually don't like Nightmare on Elm Street that much.
You don't?
It's okay. It's okay. It's one of my. It's on my overrated list. But I love Dream Warriors, and I don't dislike the series. I think the series is rad, but it's like
Some of
people
them.
go crazy over Freddy Krueger, and I'm
Oh,
like,
I know. I feel like that was probably the biggest
Yeah.
horror movie in the 80s, or one of them. Like, it's,
yeah, I don't know
it's
the
real
numbers.
up
We could
there.
look it up, but like I don't know what the highest grossing, but
Or like
it
Freddy,
has to be up
Freddy
there.
as like a the Freddy franchise.
He was a
Yeah.
phenomenon.
Yes,
no
yes,
question. And
yeah.
I know that some people are going to hear me say like, I think it's
Right.
overrated, and go, what? But like,
No, I can see that
It
because I mean,
talks-
let's be honest. Like after 4, maybe 5 is pushing it. Everything after that, it's like.
Well, number 2 stunk.
I was
Number
tired
2
of it
was
after number
sucked.
1.
Number
Like,
2 was
after the first one.
terrible.
I even as a kid, I was like, I just don't care.
What? How
just
dare you?
don't care.
Johnny Depp lost his life for that movie.
In that movie,
Son of a
I
bitch.
cared about Johnny Depp. I did. Even though I didn't know who he was, I was really sad when he got pulled in that bed and turned into a bloody milkshake. But, yeah, if I had to pick, probably the best one, I agree. Dream Warriors.
Yes.
It was definitely the darkest. I feel like too.
It's pretty
Like legit dark. Like 2 was dark, but it was just a shitty fucking movie.
Yeah.
So it was like I don't care about this. But 3 was like,
yeah.
all right, there's some like gnarly shit going on.
Uh-huh.
You know. So I definitely that is a good one, and it could have very well been in my top 5. But I was like, ugh.
Yeah, I think it for me it just didn't make it because of my own personal
You're just
bias.
getting back at me for the
But,
Hellraiser thing.
Yeah,
like,
I'm a little
oh, well,
disappointed on the Hellraiser, but I'm a little surprised that Hellraiser didn't make your list. But what like for Dream Warriors, like what was it that really grabbed you?
All the characters. There was just some great kills in there. Freddy was killing it with the one-liners. Yeah. The veins walking him out the window. Yeah, there's just so many good scenes in there.
Yeah,
And it's my favorite Nightmare film, for sure.
yeah.
I can agree with that.
I would say it's definitely my favorite of the batch. Is my
Yeah.
favorite.
What's your third one?
My third one, damn, it gets tricky, but I would probably have to say number 3 would probably be Friday the 13th,
The original?
the original.
Pamela Voorhees is the shit.
Yeah, honestly, I
Pamela
think,
Voorhees isn't used enough in there should be more action figures. There should be more posters with her on it.
Yeah.
Like I'm a big Pamela Voorhees fan. If anyone's listening and has an extra Pamela Voorhees action figure that they want to send to me, hit me up because I need that shit. It's like $300 on eBay.
I honestly think that as much as I enjoy Jason, and I've been on a slow mission to watch all the Friday the 13th in a row, and I'm still well in the middle of it. I have to say, I get why everyone likes Jason. In my book, I'm more of a Michael Myers fan between the two of them.
Okay.
But that first one is brilliant. It's really brilliant. It's a great twist. It's a great you don't know. I just think they did they did a really good job on that movie. And it's weird that they picked up what they picked up from it to make the next one, and they have it go on and suddenly age Jason, and then he was alive and all that. And I mean, it's fine. I watched, I think the second one shifts it pretty well as you can, and I think it's been interesting how it developed. And I even like that Friday the 13th, that reboot one they did, where they kind of combined 1 and 2 and retold the story a little bit, where now it's just Jason involved, and he watched his mother die and stuff like that. Okay, but really, really, just strip it all away. Friday the 13th, the movie, is by itself a really great horror movie.
It is.
Yeah,
It's a good one. I like it.
Those kids just drop like flies. You don't know what's
Yes.
going on. Like,
Yeah.
who's doing it? Why? What's happening?
Yeah.
Slicing up those skanky teenagers.
Yeah,
That's right.
I feel bad for the girl that was going to be the cook. She doesn't even make it to the camp. She's thrown out of a jeep. Like, just goes running through the woods. She doesn't even know why she's dying.
Then again, with going back to the titties and the
Yes.
sex, it was
Titties,
like,
more
man.
titties. See, the 80s didn't hold back. They didn't care. Titties, blood, whatever. They'll put it in there. They were like, whatever. Let the kids see the titties.
Well, nobody really. Kids love the titties. Did you see how much money Porky's made? No, I definitely think people didn't even have a chance to think about how sensitive they were about it. It was just those kind of movies had. It was expected to have boobs. It was expected there to be nudity.
That's another thing. Like, it got more PG in the 90s, where like the main movies in the 90s was like Hocus Pocus and Scream, which is pretty tame.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also really funny how it was okay to be like, all right, we're gonna get some tits in this, but no penis. We don't show no penis.
Well, never penis. Come on, that's just offensive.
Right. No. So, let's be honest.
Butts.
Let's,
Okay.
Who,
Titties.
really?
Okay.
There were
Who
men
wants to
butts.
see a flaccid dick
Well,
ever?
Well,
I'm sure
Ever?
there's people that want to see.
And be like,
yeah.
"Ugh."
I'm sure there's a lot of people that want to see.
No, they're just gonna be on a fucking 40-foot screen. They're gonna be like, ugh.
Well, I mean,
I'm just surprised
if
they
they
didn't
did
just...
show the dicks in like Friday the 13th, I think they would be hard because they're always about to get it on and they're teenagers. They always
Then I
have
think there would probably need to be some sort of like NC-17 or an X rating on it. If it's
Well,
a
see, but
hard
that's
dick.
but that's the funny thing. It's funny how I'm just commenting that it is funny. I mean, I appreciate
Well, you don't see
all the
vaginas
movies.
either.
I
Yeah.
used to stare at like scrambled
Dicks
channels
all the time.
that would have like horror movies on it. Like before I was able to finally see Night of the Demon or something, I was seeing like boobs, and I'm like, I can kind of see them. Like, don't get me wrong, I was really committed and enjoyed these movies. But it's just interesting that they didn't become like naked all the way around, and that even like, oh, if there was a penis on there, that'd have to be rated X. Like, it was like, but titties, you can have the titties, you can have that girl running naked across, that's okay. It's just interesting that culturally it developed that way. Like,
Yeah.
that they didn't just go like, yeah, we're gonna get the kids naked in these movies and off they go.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas it was just like, no, tits okay. Nobody.
Well,
You can
plus
have
there's
a
a
man
lot-
butt.
There's a
but-
lot of things. There's mechanical issues you have to deal with
Well,
with a
that's-
penis. You know what I mean? And most of the time when they're shooting out on the fucking lake or in the woods, it's probably going to be like 40 degrees.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty cool.
So shrinkage is definitely going to occur. And then you're gonna be like, okay, well, we're gonna need a fluffer on screen and or on, on
You
set.
would need a fluffer. I mean, it's just the reality. If you're going to be in a lake, you're going to hop out. If anyone's
Yeah,
disappointed,
but you
I'm,
know-
okay, I'm okay with
You-
there
you
not
know what's
being any
worse?
wieners.
Yeah, you know what's worse
in
than
it.
seeing
I just say it's interesting
a
that
flaccid floppy dick is a fucking small turtled flaccid floppy dick.
Turtled.
Nobody wants to see that shit.
I'm
right about shit.
I'm merely
Turtleneck.
making the observation that it's funny that it developed that way, where all of a sudden tits were okay, and yeah, you do. I mean, you don't see any spread vagina, but there's lots of movies with like girls that are completely naked running,
Yeah.
doing something. And
Because the
it's
female
just, like,
body is beautiful.
There was a couple moments of man
Tis.
butt, but that's it. Like that's all it gets. I'm just observing, making the observation. But yeah, Friday the 13th is my number 3, the original one. I think it's underrated in the shadow of Jason.
Yes.
I think everyone makes such a big deal about Jason, they forget about Pamela Voorhees and how she fucked everybody up.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I think about it. All right, so the original AC/DC Bon Scott. That's what the original is. However, when you want the world to blow up, it's Brian Johnson era AC/DC all the way, rocking stadiums and shit. Apples and oranges, but
It frightens me how well I appreciate and understand and completely get this reference, because you're totally right. I get what you're saying.
like, would AC/DC be as giant if Bon Scott didn't die? I don't know. As great as he was, not sure that would have translated through, like,
right.
you know what I mean? Like the stadium rock kind of fucking explosion, like all that shit. Whereas I think it needed Jason to develop as a character.
Right.
You know what I mean? To get the thing, but I agree. The first one is pretty great as a movie.
Because as cool as it is to see Jason get launched in 2 and 3, finally get the mask in 3 and become a character in 2, as fun as all that is, honestly, those movies are shit compared to that first movie. Especially 3, which gets retold as if it's really great because he picks up the mask. But that is one big advertisement for 3D effects. Is
Yeah.
they throw balls at the screen
Yeah.
and poke at the screen. And I'm like, oh, come on. Like, this is such a clear, like,
I
money
hate
grab
3D.
for that effect of
Hate
3D glasses. But that first one was a tight, super solid movie.
Yeah, it was
you know,
100% a solid
I'm not
movie.
hating Jason. I'm just saying, like, I think that movie needs more appreciation.
100% good script, good cast, well acted.
Yeah.
It's a solid movie, and I think like my personal favorites, Friday the 13th, are like between 4 and 6.
Yeah, well,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because
that's
they
one of the-
develop Jason a little bit better,
Right,
and
that's really where
it gets, you know what I mean? And then the ones after that, it kind of gets rarity
No,
like.
I appreciate.
So,
I appreciate the. I would say 4, 5, and 6 is the Jason movies.
That's what I like about Friday the 13th. Like, as a collection, it's probably the best of, like, the slasher films where, like, there's a lot of shitty nightmare ones and there's a lot of shitty Halloween ones, but, like, you could watch 1 through 6 of
Yeah,
Friday the 13th, and it's, like, that's
it's
a pretty
relatively
solid.
consistent,
Yes.
let's say. You know, I think it peaked in the middle, whereas with Friday, or with Nightmare on Elm Street, they kind of
Yeah.
peaked in the beginning, and then just...
I think you guys are being very generous, but I agree with you.
All right, so everyone did 3. Did you do 3?
Did you do 3?
I did not do 3.
What's yours?
Poltergeist.
Oh.
Yeah. I'll even say this is, since we're talking about it now, this is my number 2.
Okay. Yeah, this was like, as a kid, like, I loved it. I called one of my older cousins Poltergeist. I don't know why, just because that's what I called her. Not because she was scary, she was awesome. Bonnie was Bonnie's awesome, but she...
I watched that remake they made not that long ago, like a couple years ago.
We didn't watch that.
Don't
Okay.
watch it.
Yeah,
It's
I
Mark
think
Wahlberg.
that's why we didn't watch it, because we asked you what you thought
Yeah,
about
it's
it. We were
terrible.
just like, okay.
That first movie's super fun, super. I mean, it was basically Steven Spielberg kind of returning to try and scare people for the first time in a while, and I think he did a really good job. It went in the mainstream. It got in people's heads. For me, it's on 2 because it scared the crap out of me as a kid.
Yeah.
But I'm hijacking your number 3.
Oh, no,
so
no.
go
I
ahead.
mean, that's same with me. I was like, oh, because I think it touched, again, 80s really, like, touched on a lot of shit. Like, a lot of the scares, a lot of the kind of structure of the old classic horror movies in the 50s and stuff like that, and just the paranormal stuff touched on a lot of that, where it's like, and not in like a dumb way, as a lot of paranormal horror movies do. Like, it kind of gets hokey or whatever. It was just like, oh shit, you know, it's kind of fucking spooky, because as you remember, in the 80s, I mean, that was like a huge thing, you know.
Yeah.
Amityville Horror, like all that whole thing. So for me, that was, it fucking scared me. And the fucking clown.
The clown.
Oh,
the
yeah.
clown scared the crap out
That,
of me.
yeah.
And
That's
then-
probably the scariest clown ever.
Because again,
To
it touches
me.
on like the shit under your bed, or like when you're a little kid, that thing in the fucking corner,
Right.
where in the day, totally not an issue, but at night,
Oh.
you're like, oh, fuck.
And I know it's not the go-to for people now. Like, if you go to we go to Monster Palooza and we ask everyone about Poltergeist, they're not going to be like, "Oh yeah, it's one of my top." But
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
I think
yeah.
it deserves to be
It's good.
recognized because
good.
back then it scared you.
Yeah.
When you were a kid and
Definitely
you
to
see
me
it,
as a
yeah,
kid,
when you
like-
see it the first time.
Yeah, that the scene where he turns off the light and he's like running
Oh, yeah.
to his bed because he has to, you know,
Jump
get in
in,
there,
yeah.
get in there as quickly as possible. I still do that now. So like when I watched that as a kid, because I hate the dark. I hate it.
Really?
I do.
No kidding.
I hate it.
Really? And you look so good in that.
I know, right? I am the biggest scaredy cat. I love horror movies so much, but I am the biggest scaredy cat. I'll watch a horror movie and then I'll be up all night, but I love being scared.
Right.
I guess is what it is.
Well, there's a certain reaction that I think horror gets out of people that is just really fun. You either can't handle it at all, or you just embrace how fun it is to have a reaction, whether it's a jump or you're like, oh shit, what's about to happen? You know?
Paralyzing fear.
Yeah, but I mean, like drugs, you totally get, the more you watch, the more desensitized, and it's harder to get that feeling out of you when you watch horror, which is,
Yeah.
I'm sure anybody listening is going to be able to say that, is like, you love it, so you watch a bunch of it, and then it stops working on you as effectively.
And it had real corpses in it.
That's the other
The
thing.
pool scene is like my favorite fucking scene, that whole thing. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's the worst. You're trying to get out of something and you can't, you know. It's on that.
That actress didn't know.
No.
She
Yeah.
didn't know, and then
She
found out.
shouldn't know, because I bet you she wouldn't have done that scene.
Oh, and let's talk about how all the weird shit in the bad luck that would happen.
Oh
you know what I
yeah,
mean?
that's right.
Yeah, the curse, the poltergeist curse for the actors.
Yeah. What were some of those?
Well, they just a lot of people died.
Yeah.
Like the actress that played the older sister was killed by her boyfriend, I believe that's what happened. But I know she was having a lot of problems there with him. And then Carol Ann,
there's a lot of
that
shit
actress passed away.
Yeah.
Died early. Like there's a lot of weird stuff that happened in connection to it. People should look it up and read it. Like it's worth it. There's a lot of crazy.
And my other favorite scene, the fucking steak scene.
Oh.
Where he's hungry, I'm gonna go eat some stuff, and he gets fucking steak and starts crawling across the thing, and it opens up, and there's maggots, and he goes in the utility room.
I always thought that scene was really cute.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, and then he's, starts pulling out his face, and he's pulling his face off and thing. I was like, oh my god, that's fucking gnarly. Oh,
Yeah.
That's scary. So that's my number 3. It had an impact on me when I was a little kid. So I was
Yeah,
like,
me
it's gotta-
too. And I know, like I said, I know people listening to this who are super horror fans are going to be like, Poltergeist, but I mean, come on, when you saw it the first time, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's
And it should be watched. If you were looking through
Yeah.
80s, what movie should you hit? You got to hit Poltergeist.
yeah.
It's not on my list, and I'm not like a huge fan of Poltergeist, but as my childhood, that was everything
Yeah,
to
that was
me
the big
as
one.
far
people born after 87, 88 have to understand how like impactful horror movies were in like the early 80s and the mid 80s, like because by the time the 90s come, there's just you're just blasted, you're oversaturated with desensitized to a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But in the 80s, when you're 4 or 5 and you see that, and all the effects are still kind of new, and you're just like, what? It's like a renaissance all over again from like the 50s, where it's like, oh, it's all this new stuff and everything, and they finally get some of the technology to do shit, and they do it, and you're like, so when you grew up in the 80s, a lot of these movies that you could look back now and people are like, it's kind of boring. What back then it was like, holy fuck, this is some scary shit.
Right.
So
I put out a challenge to you guys. If you guys are listening to this and you're like, what? I dare you. Take Poltergeist, show it to a kid.
Oh yeah.
Show it to a kid who's never seen it.
Yeah.
And I even now, I get a little kid, even with everything they've seen, just show it to a kid. See how they react. They're gonna be scared shitless, I guarantee it. Like, unless you got one of those Rambo kids that's totally fine with everything, but like it'll scare a kid for sure to this day.
I agree. All right, number 2, Shotzi.
My number 2, and you'll like this one, Monster Squad.
Oh,
Is that your number
really?
2?
that's my number 1.
That's your
Really?
number 1.
See, but it's not
Okay.
okay, I love that movie. But it isn't really scary.
It's
No,
not.
it's not.
But it is definitely an homage to classic, like 30s, 40s, 50s horror.
Yeah, it's
films.
like if the Goonies had the classic Universal monsters in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a great film.
Oh, it's so good.
It is
Monster
a great film.
Squad is the shit.
So let's hear your reasons. Go for it.
Oh, it's just so much fun. I love that all the classic monsters are in it. Yeah, like I said, it's like Goonies with monsters in it, which is fucking awesome.
I will elaborate on that point.
Please do,
and
please.
say
This is, I mean, I love this movie,
Yes.
but I would say that you love it more than me.
I do. Like,
This hits home for you. I know.
okay, first of all, everything about the movie is great. Just everything.
They blew it.
Everything. Even the fucking theme song at the end. Gotta get up. Gotta get out. We got
get up.
work to do.
Yeah.
All that shit is good. And again, it combined like everything fun about being a kid in horror movies. Like, you got a club, you got a clubhouse, like tree house.
You have like a monster friend, but you're also fighting monsters.
Yeah, it's like every imaginative scenario a kid that likes horror movies and is with a group of kids like that he pals around with. That's what you imagine. That's what you guys do. And like, oh man, we're gonna set this story up and we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that and we're gonna fight this guy.
That's
And
true.
it was
That's
like
pretty
a
awesome.
complete adventure movie, but with the fucking classic monster movies in it. So right there, I was like, fuck, man. And again, I could see me and my friends all doing that shit.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
you know what I mean?
I feel like a kid again when I watch that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. I have to say, I'm surprised of everything that show was never developed as like a comic, a cartoon,
Yeah.
or a TV show, because it
Right,
totally
right.
could have been.
Uh-huh.
They could have kept that going easily, and they never
definitely.
did. I wonder, you just kind of wonder why
And-
that property never got picked up by anybody.
And some of the best representations of vampires, zombies, werewolves, fucking creatures from lagoons,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like every mummies,
Awesome one-liners. Wolverine's
those
got
monsters
yards.
were like some of the best versions.
Yes.
I'd put them up against any versions from the 90s, from the 80s, from the 2000s, like as
Well,
far
they
as
they had a hard time too because, you know, Universal has very strict, like, you know, Frankenstein can't have that shaped head, and they had you know,
rules and
yes,
laws,
a lot
yeah.
of rules on what you couldn't do to a monster in a movie.
Gilman probably is my favorite version, you know, aside from the original,
Really?
of course.
Oh,
Aside-
okay, but
yeah.
aside, okay.
Yeah.
Ever since then, of any sort of like creature from the Black Lagoon,
Over
or like water.
The Shape of Water.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I
It's
thought
pretty,
that was,
it's a pretty monstrous Gilman.
you know,
Uh,
and the werewolf was first of all, it has fucking Uncle Rico as the werewolf
it
in it.
does have Uncle Rico as the werewolf. Yeah, for any was it for Napoleon Dynamite?
Or
fans.
if you're a Martin fan, if you remember that show from the 90s, he was Martin's co-worker.
Yeah.
The DJ guy, yeah, but that's my fucking top.
See, I
movie.
wouldn't have put this in because to me this is an homage to horror. It's definitely within our podcast to cover because it's Monster Squad and it's fantastic. And I don't want to naysay this.
Right.
I do agree those versions of the creatures in it, all the versions are super fun and super rad. And I love that movie. That movie is one of my go-tos. Like, for me, when I was a kid, like, Goonies and Monster Squad. By the time Monster Squad came out, I was like, yeah, these two. These are the ones. You got early 80s kids, late 80s kids. I'm down. I'm in. But, yeah, I guess I wouldn't have thought of this. I'm surprised you guys threw it down. I love that you did, but I didn't expect that. Yeah, it was,
Yeah,
And
it's
the
cool.
same mom in the Goonies, same mom in Monster Squad.
it is the
so
same
it's like,
mom.
yeah,
Weird.
yeah,
What a weird thing to be able to claim.
uh-huh.
I'm surprised she doesn't do conventions going, I'm everybody's mom.
She does.
Does she?
We've been to
Yeah.
we went to Monster Palooza and we saw the panel with a lot of the cast of Monster Squad, and she was there, and
Yeah,
she
well, so her and the dad, and I mentioned something to both of them because they were all in the same room together or they were at the same table, and asking them about, you know, how'd their therapy go and everything like that. And it took them like a split second, and they looked at each other and they started laughing because then they got like, oh yeah,
Yeah, they're good
Like-
therapy.
yeah. So
That's
it's-
awesome. No, that's a good movie, man.
that, you know, and it's not scary, and it can definitely fall in the same kind of category as even like a Ghostbusters or a Gremlins.
right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Which,
Gremlins is a lot gorier, and there's actually
right,
some scary
but
scenes
it's,
in
you know,
Gremlins.
it's still very fun, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's
Ghostbusters even
Amusing.
has some moments that are
yeah.
kind of like,
But I mean, it's all ghosts and creatures, and you know, it's horror shit, but it's just not
Yeah.
scary.
no.
So
But at the same
It's a
time,
monster movie.
going
Yeah.
back to it, and which we cover, but going back to it, is it a movie that people who are watching the 80s needs to see if you love
Fucking
horror?
yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Should you
hell
show that
yeah.
to somebody? And it's a good.
But just anyone. If you haven't seen Monster Squad, you need to watch Monster Squad, even if you don't
Yeah.
like horror movies.
Yeah.
and I also believe that it is underrated.
Yes,
It's a movie. I don't
definitely.
think it gets the respect that it
definitely.
should have gotten.
no, I don't think it does.
No.
It's starting to within the last like
Because
probably
we're all old enough.
5 years.
To
You know,
love
you
it.
got a lot of people are starting to be like, oh, you know, really kind of get.
I mean, they
back
could have
into
come
it.
out with Monster Squad toys, and I would have gone crazy for them. They never did. It was I kind of think it might have been a flop at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was a flop.
yeah.
Yeah, like
Give it time, man, because there's a lot of people getting back into it. You know, like
There's a
the cult
Yeah.
following and stuff like that. I wouldn't be surprised within the next 5 years if they start putting toys out and stuff like
I'm
that.
hearing it mentioned more and more than it used to be. You know, I didn't hear anybody talk about it. It was only like, have you ever seen Monster Squad? What? You know, it's like now it's definitely everyone's kind of it's an awesome movie. Yeah, I'm backing it.
So what's your number 2?
Well, my number 2 was Poltergeist.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
So,
right. Yeah, it's
If
you could tell we're friends and we like a lot of the same shit.
Yeah, I know.
It's kind of funny. Well, number 1 for me, the best. This is. I'm going to the. I'm
Did
going.
you do your 2?
I didn't do my 2 yet, but
Oh, what's your 2?
well,
do your 2.
You could do your
No,
one.
because let's wait. No, let's go. What's your number 2?
Tui.
Fright Night.
Fright Night.
Oh, okay.
Fright Night's fun.
It is, and again, for me, if you've been listening, if you've stuck around this long to listen to this us fucking babble on
Is there
about
titties in that
shit.
too?
Yeah, kind of. You could kind of see Amanda Bear's boobs through her sheer nightgown towards the end. But if you stuck around, there's a theme, and I like a lot of the, classic plays. I think it's just a solid like vampire movie.
It is probably one of the more solid vampire.
Like script, everything. It's
Straight.
very done well and tells the story of a vampire.
It's
Yeah, I
Dracula.
like that it does address like all the different ways to kill a vampire.
Yeah, I mean,
but yeah.
It's Dracula for the suburbs in the 80s.
100%.
It's basically what Stephen King was trying to do with Salem's Lot.
Yeah.
His original, or Jerusalem's Lot.
Yeah.
And the story he was trying to tell is that updated concept of Dracula in a more modern setting.
I mean, it has fucking Cornelius in it. For you Planet of the Apes fans.
Yeah,
I mean, come on,
Cornelius.
that I think it was good, and I think it was, just everything about it was super solid. The whole like paranoia of the next door neighbor that you're like, what's up with this dude or this person? Like they're being all creepy and weird. Are they killers? Because I know as a fucking kid, we had all kinds of stories about weirdo people were
Down
like
the street,
homeless.
yeah,
don't
right.
go by that house
Oh,
or
yeah,
it's this.
definitely.
Or I swear one time I saw them carrying a body out. Or
Yeah.
I heard they kidnap kids and hold them in. Just everything about it. And I think and the effects were cool. Again, I think the vampires were done real well.
Yeah, No.
And had melting again.
it did.
I'm a fan of melting.
I think they ramped up the girl awful lot as in her vampire transformation. It was like, okay, is that what's her name?
Marcy Darcy never looked hotter.
No, she never looked at.
Yeah,
she's
as a
not,
vampire,
she's never
yes.
been my taste.
We were talking about that too.
But, I mean, she was your girl next door. But when she was all vamped out, I was like, I see you, Marcy Darcy.
I like when she gets the big mouth of teeth. You're just like, oh girl, you got real ugly. I think I go full Ash. Like,
Yeah.
you found me beautiful once. Like,
That I didn't
Yeah,
like so
God.
much, which also kind of was the same makeup they used for From Dusk Till Dawn. Another one of my really favorite vampire movies.
yeah, that's another big one.
But they had kind of the same mouth
Yeah,
as one of the
a little
makeups.
over the top. Super
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
kind
I
of
like the
eh.
classic vampire Two Fangs.
Yeah,
But I think that
most you give me 4 fangs if you really want to.
Yeah,
go
I
crazy.
do. I like the Four Fangs.
I don't
too.
mind that.
Yeah.
No. And it was the they reused the Ghostbusters Zool thing in it. So
Ah, what are you talking about?
the skull.
Oh, the skull?
Yeah. It was remember the dogs in Ghostbusters?
Yeah.
It was also used for the bat in Vamp.
Oh, right. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, damn! I didn't even catch that. Wow, I'm the trivia guy. Fail. No, okay, yeah, Fright Night. I mean, Fright Night's awesome. It's for all the reasons you just threw out. Yeah, it is a go-to film.
I like it.
Nice. What's your number 2, or what did we cover?
I'm on
Her-
one.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm
her
on
2
one.
was my one.
All right, who's doing 1? Who wants to do the first one?
The Thing.
That is my number 1.
Oh my God, The
That is
Thing is.
I go to the mat saying that to me is the best horror movie of the
Yes.
80s. I think that people should see is The Thing.
I even think John Carpenter might be my favorite director. I love The Thing.
Because he's an easy director to love.
Halloween, The Fog.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was
She's looking off into, for people who can't see, she's now looking off into space. And there's like a ray of light hitting her now.
My favorite pile of special effects in any
it was
movie,
good. It's
The
probably one of, if not the best solid movie
I think
Yeah.
it might
in
even
general.
be-
I mean, just in general.
I think
but
it
like,
might just be my favorite movie.
It's
in
pretty
general.
good.
Yeah.
And I had a hard time.
I always loved that original, The Thing from Outer Space.
Yeah.
I think it's great. That's fun. But this movie.
And the prequel's good too. The newer one
Yeah,
that came out like 2011.
yeah, I didn't. I wanted to love it more than I did. But I liked it.
I liked it.
But I just love The Thing.
Oh, The Thing.
And it's like some of the moments, like I still see in my head, if I have to sit here and close my eyes, I would still see the guy that gets like pushed up against and just absorbed as he's screaming
Yeah.
and dragged across, like where it like leans against him, and just, oh my god, like that, like the idea to fight something that if it touches you, you're probably dead,
Yep.
like real quick, painfully. And
Yeah,
you're
it was-
part of it. It's like, oh god.
yeah.
It was hard not putting it in my top
Yeah.
5, but there's just I have a little more personal connections to the other movies.
No, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good number
And
one.
Kurt Russell's in it,
Kurt
who's a
Russell,
fucking
Snake
badass.
Plissken, I mean, come on.
yeah.
Yeah. Everybody, Wilford Brimley
Yes.
in that movie.
Way before he had the diabetes.
Yeah, way before Cocoon.
Yeah.
But he, like, yeah, I honestly, I think that I know that there would be people who would debate, but I have to say that to me is like the number one. Like, I mean, I get
And-
Fright Night. Is that was your number one? Fright Night?
No, Monster Squad, yeah.
Monster Squad's your number
Yeah.
one. But like in terms of just like movies that made me go, "Wow,"
Yes.
especially like
So
even
good.
after the first time I saw it, like even to this day, there's some scenes where I'm just like, and you're like,
and it's
And it was completely underrated when it came out.
well, it's definitely one of those movies that's border. It straddles that sci-fi versus horror.
Well, yes, it's definitely
Thing-
sci-fi horror.
You know what I mean? Even Predator was essentially a fucking horror movie.
right.
You know what I
Yes.
mean? So it's sci-fi kind of
Alien,
but
sci-fi horror.
Well, if you want to debate, like if somebody wanted to debate the horror value of The Thing, I would just say, right now, if there was a poltergeist in this room, I'd be more fascinated. If there was a vampire in this room, I'd be more like, whoa, okay, that's bizarre, and I'd try to get out of here. But if you want to make me shit myself and freak the fuck out, have that cat that's in this room suddenly turn into a spider creature with its head launching up and all these teeth coming out, screaming at
Yeah.
everything at the top of its lungs, and trying to attack everybody by absorbing them in. I'm gonna lose. I'm gonna jump out the window.
I don't know how you could debate that. There's so much blood in there. There's
It's like
yeah, I
this-
mean it's
It moves so fast. It's scuttling. It separates
It's-
out. Like
yeah,
you hit it with
it's gross.
an axe. It separates out. It runs around. Like what? What would you do against that? That's why to this day, I watching those scenes. It's like kind of uncomfortable. Like there's uncomfortable moments in that movie. If you put yourself in their situation, they're fucked.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
everybody's fucked.
it's a super solid movie.
Yes.
One of my favorites. So I
and
think that is-
unfortunately, E.T. came out that same year, so no one gave a shit about it.
yeah.
Oh wow, that's true.
Yeah,
Because
Fucking
E.T.
E.T.
was the thing. Like
E.T. killed it for them.
E.T. was huge.
feel like-
Fucking made everyone think that they like fucking Reese's Pieces.
yeah, they are good though.
I don't like
Yeah, I'm not.
Really, I like them.
I mean, I'll eat them just because I'm just suckered into like, yeah, man, they're good. But
Did you guys hear? I'm probably starting a conversation that I can't finish, but I feel like there was some sort of addressing of the ending of The Thing, over whether one of them was aliens or not, and somebody had like an explanation. There was like an official explanation brought out of like whether one of them was an alien or not.
What was
and
it?
I don't remember.
See,
I mean, I'd have to
Oh.
edit it back in. Maybe I have to edit this out because now it's a dead topic. I don't know.
Oh, but now I want to know.
Yeah, I do too, but
Yeah, man, keep this in. This is real, man.
This is real. Me going, oh, did you guys know about the thing where they talked? No? Nobody? I don't either. All right. Thanks for listening.
Well, I mean, I don't
Monster
like...
Candy!
Hey, guys, this is Monster Candy. Yeah.
We're informed. No, yeah, I know.
Well, see, that's the thing, man. We're not... You know, if you get offended by what I'm going to say, too fucking bad. But, like, I don't nerd out about shit. There's some shit I do get super nerdy about, like, oh my god, I need to find out everything, but I try not to get too much into stuff I, you know, really, really like, because it kind of kills it sometimes,
Right.
you know what I mean? So, but I would be interested to hear if there was an explanation, you know, but sometimes I just like leaving things the way they are. Like,
Right.
I saw Little Richard twice, saw him once, and I could have met him, like actually went up to meet him, but I was like, you know what? I don't want to ruin this.
Yeah, don't ruin a good thing.
That ending is really, really
You know,
great.
so I think the ending is perfect without any explanation. Because at this point, honestly, the fuck does it matter?
Right.
Yeah.
The ending is so good. Like, I mean, that's the thing of why I love that movie so much, and I feel like it should be considered the best horror of the 80s, is because start to finish, there's no awkward, weird, there's no weird moment. It's like even the ending is just is strong. It's so strong that it leaves you unsettled and unsure of like what just happened. You know, what happens next? You have no idea. So anyway,
I agree.
I think the thing is great.
No, what's your number one?
That
is
was
my
it?
number. That's
Oh,
my number
oh, really?
one.
So,
That's my
okay.
number one.
Yeah, we are all friends.
Yeah. So we didn't know what we should have made that clear. Is that we didn't
Yeah,
make these lists together.
he would not tell me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I tried to peep his list, and he would slap my hand out of the way.
So I think this is a good place to come to an end for the moment and maybe break it up because I'd like to talk about terrible movies to avoid and overrated and a couple other things. We've been going for a while, so why don't we wrap it up
Sure.
and call it this. So this ends part 1 of our 80s episodes. We're going to do another one. So thank you for listening to Monster Candy.
Monster Candy Podcast, suck my butthole. Goodbye.
We'll see you next time. You gotta pee? You've been listening to Monster Candy Podcast. Want to find out more about the show? Find us on the web at monstercandypodcast.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram by searching Monster Candy Podcast. And you can find our Twitter at MonsterCNDYPC. Hey, we couldn't fit the whole name. What do you want from us? Let us know what you think of the show and if we're right or if we're wrong or what you want us to tackle next. We want to hear from you. Well, Shotzi and I do, but I can promise that E doesn't really care. To find out more about Shotzi Blackheart and her professional wrestling, follow her Twitter at Shotzi Black or her Instagram at Shotzi Blackheart. You can follow Screamin' E's band, the Memphis Murder Men, on Facebook at TMMM official page or his Instagram at Screamin' E. That's screaming with no G, add the E. For me, Dominic Davy, you can find my artwork at dominicdavy.com, my band Tsunami Bomb at tsunamibomb.net, and you can hear my other podcast, 3 Gigs, at 3gigspodcast.com, or on the same platform you're hearing this podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Monster Candy Podcast.